Today I am at the Redondo Beach Pier, and I decided to do the video here because out of all the 3 piers in this area, the Redondo Beach one has the most cool things here. They have all these restaurants, large little walking area that I'm going to take you guys through. We'll see ocean views, everything along the way. And you know, the piers that they have over in Manhattan Beach and Hermosa Beach are just regular run-of-the-mill piers, just kind of juts out into the ocean. Not really much to see except for the ocean views, but here there's all different kinds of things, so I figured it'd be the coolest spot to do this video. And I'm gonna start off with the fact that right now, Americans' credit card debt is soaring at the fastest pace than we have seen in 20 years. And one thing that we already know that's been happening behind the scenes is the amount of credit card debt that people are carrying is nearing $1 trillion, which is a record, by the way, in case anybody wants to know. And just in the first quarter of this year, credit card balances rose by more than 17%, okay? So that's a lot, guys. I mean, when you're looking at the total utilization rate of your credit, they say you want to keep it below like 30% or so. So people are using more than half of that just in the first quarter of this year. So that's a big deal, which means people's credit scores are likely starting to go down, and people's borrowing power is also likely starting to go down. And you know what? With all these Fed interest rate hikes that we've had, this is not good for people who are borrowing all this money and putting it on the credit card, because to put things into perspective, just 10 years ago, the average interest rate on a credit card, if you don't pay, was 12%. Today, it's almost 21%, and that's just the average. I've seen that credit card companies can charge you as much as 30% if you make a late payment or something like that. That's the maximum that they can charge you, and 30% is significant, guys, but 20% is also quite high if you're carrying a balance. And we are just getting so close to that $1 trillion in credit card debt number, because as of June of 2023, we're standing at $988 billion in credit card debt. So we're pretty much almost there. And many different financial experts right now believe that the reason that credit card debt is rising at such a fast pace is because people are trying to keep up with the cost of living and are putting the difference that they can't make on their actual paychecks on the credit cards. Anybody who's ever been in credit card debt knows that that's a losing scenario, not only for your personal finances, but one day that's gonna end. You're gonna reach a maximum limit on your cards and you'll no longer be able to spend. So one thing that people keep asking me in the comments is, Michael, what do you think is going to be the catalyst to bring down the economy or bring down the housing market or whatever? And it could be any one of these things, guys. It could be this ballooning credit card debt bubble. It could be the rising amount of delinquencies on auto loans. It could be the recession becoming official and unemployment start to tick up. Or maybe a combination of all of those things and some other things I didn't even mention here. And that's one of the reasons why I keep talking about these things, because there are so many different problems that can basically blow the lid off of this thing at any moment, and you just don't know which one it's going to be. But I believe whatever happens first is going to cause a chain reaction with everything else. And I think what's going to happen is you're just going to see more and more dominoes fall. Like, for example, okay, the student loan payments kick in a couple of months. If people can't afford to make other payments because they're making those payments, then defaults rise, and then defaults on other types of payments will continue to rise after that. So it's just like this domino chain reaction of people not being able to pay the bills. And someone else mentioned too that, oh, Michael, you talk about people not paying their bills, but the federal government doesn't pay theirs either. They just go into more and more debt. So not a good example. And I agree, guys, it's totally true. That's what they do. The government goes into more and more debt every single year, and they set a horrendous example for the American people. And people see that and say, yeah, maybe I should live like this too. This is a good thing. America can keep borrowing money and living like this forever. Except here's the difference, okay? You're not the Fed, and you don't have a printing press that can print, you know, trillions of dollars at switch of a finger, okay? And they do. So your debt is permanent in the sense that it needs to be paid off. they can just keep kicking the can down the road and printing more money and creating more debt, whereas we cannot. And speaking of debt, you have mortgage brokers and of course real estate agents that are dying to sell you a house right now because business is so slow. And you know, I've been picking on this Fairway mortgage company for months now because every time they send out an email, it seems to sound dumber than the last one. And I think only one time they actually sent out an email that I agreed with and had some sensible advice. But check out this one, guys. Tip of the week. Did you know that if, okay, they should put if in big capital words here, interest rates drop to 6%, there will be 3.1 million more home buyers that can compete with your buyer's offers. This is targeted towards real estate agents saying, you know, if rates go down to 6%, this is a threat that you face as a real estate agent. Then it says, the fact is that 66% of 2023 buyers are waiting for mortgage rates to drop before home shopping. This means that if and when they do drop, it will be insane. With some of the lowest inventories in history right now, the competitive landscape to purchase a home will intensify. Why is this important? Because you, the realtor, are the educator of your buyers. You must convey to buyers the fact that waiting for rates to drop will lead to more competition for homes, not only pushing prices higher, but possibly pushing your offer further down the list of attractive offers. 2021 and 2022 was less than 2 years ago. Do you remember having to go 50K above appraised value? Well, we might be less than 1% in rate drop away from those times again. And this last part, the biggest lie of all. And remember, you can always refinance later. That is just not true, guys. Go watch my video from a few days ago. I give you a bunch of reasons of why that is a lie. This is the ultimate, listen up guys, listen to me here. You guys think that I'm saying bad news or I'm fear mongering and scaring people? This email that I just read you guys is the ultimate example of fear mongering and trying to scare potential home buyers into buying right now for fear that they'll never be able to, because as soon as the rates drop, everything's going to go bananas and no one will be able to buy anything because competition will be fierce. But yet, if we look what happened during the 2008 housing crash, the exact opposite was true. In fact, interest rates were falling at a time when home inventory was ticking up and no one was buying it. Why? Because the economy was in bad shape, people could not buy it, and the smart ones that actually could knew things would continue to drop and chose not to anyways. So this is literally putting a crazy amount of unnecessary pressure on potential home buyers to jump in and buy right now for fear that when rates drop below 6%, they won't be able to. The competition will be so fierce, they'll be locked out, which history shows us the exact opposite, in fact, is true. When rates start to drop, that means the Fed has pivoted, things aren't going so well, and you're going to have more options than ever because people who've been waiting to sell, sellers are going to be like, yeah, I'm going to list, but guess what? Where are the buyers going to be? The buyers are going to be gone because the economy is not doing well at that moment. You're going to have a huge selection of homes available to purchase, and prices will likely continue to be going down in that scenario. So don't listen to this stuff, guys. When you hear these crazy fear-mongering stories, don't listen. And honestly, I don't even know what the title of this video is going to be yet, but I should title it something like debt, 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 because it's all about debt, really. But if I title it that, you probably won't watch it, so I got to come up with something more clever. Here's the next thing, okay? Home equity loans. The searches for people looking for home equity loans online on Google is hitting an all-time high. So more and more people than ever are wanting to know, how can I borrow money against my home? And why do you think people are looking to do this right now? Well, the number one reason I think people are looking to do this is probably because they need the money. People usually aren't going to borrow against their house unless they need the money for something. As of July of 2023, the Google search term of HELOC, or home equity line of credit, reached an all-time high at 305%. Okay? And Google even tracks where these searches are coming from, and the states that have the most searches for this are Hawaii, Utah, and Colorado. So these are where more people than anyone else are looking to take out a loan against their home right now. And one of the theories of why this is happening is not only because people need money, but also because a lot of these people are trapped in their homes, guys, meaning that they're stuck with the low interest rates that they got during the time when you could get a 3% mortgage. So they're not selling, and they're looking at other ways to maybe remodel the house and tap into the equity of this property and do something else with all this money that they've built up in there. But one thing I'm sure a lot of these people aren't thinking about is when you get a HELOC, for example, that's an adjustable rate loan, guys. That's a variable interest rate, which means that the interest rate on that can continually change as the Fed raises rates. And obviously they just raised the rates this week, another 25 basis points. And now the big question is, are they going to continue with more rate hikes? You know, a lot of the Wall Street analysts and the big stock market guys, they think it's over. They think that there's going to be no further rate increases from here. But if you saw my video a couple days ago, one thing I talked about in there was, now that these GDP numbers are out and they have smashed previous predictions of where they thought GDP was going to be right now, this could actually spur the Fed to increase rates even further and higher than anyone has been anticipating. To just assume that it's all over with right now is a really dangerous position to be in, because there's no way to actually know what's going to happen. And Jerome Powell said that they're not taking more interest rate hikes off the table right now. There's still a possibility that there might be more rate hikes this year still yet to come. And you know, here's another interesting thing that Powell said at the meeting this week. He said that the housing market has a long ways to go before balancing out. So, you know, we're always left trying to like decipher what all these little hidden messages mean whenever Jerome Powell speaks. And to me, what this means is that the interest rate hikes are probably going to remain where they're at for quite some time, and is really going to depress the housing market activity to the point where it might actually line up with higher unemployment starting to come out later on next year, more defaults than we're seeing right now, which will in effect change the housing market. It will help prices come down, because when people can't afford to pay the mortgage, when people are not buying because they can't afford to at these rates and prices, that's naturally going to balance things out. So really, I think the question mark is, when does the rubber meet the road with these higher interest rate hikes? Because we know most sellers don't want to sell under these current circumstances when you're facing a 7% mortgage and coming from a 3% mortgage, which makes perfect sense. But my question is, how long can they hold on for? Because sometimes people just need to move. So those guys are going to move, right? But the ones that are holding out in hopes for mortgage rates to come down, it's possible that by the time rates do start coming down, something else will break in the economy that might trigger a lot of people to sell before they actually want to. And that's where I think things are headed. That's kind of like my prediction of where things might be going within the next 12 months from now. But no one can say for sure, right? That's just where I think things are headed based on all the things we're hearing about today. But I'll tell you what, it's not all bad news, guys, because the prices of brand new homes literally is dropping below the cost of a used house, which is kind of funny, right? It's kind of that same scenario we saw during the pandemic with the car prices, where you could literally buy a brand new car for a cheaper price than you could a used car for a little while there. And now the same thing is happening with the housing market. And thanks to the massive uptick in, you know, builder sentiment and the amount of housing starts that these guys have been building is really helping out with that. In fact, check this out. The median price for a brand new single family home in June is down to $415,000, which is 16% below its peak in October of 2022. And it's 5% down year over year. So new home prices are actually suffering even more than used home prices right now. At first glance, and when you think about it, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, because naturally you would think most people would want a brand new house before they would want, you know, someone's old house that probably needs a bunch of repairs and different things to be done to get it up to their standard. And you know, the crazy thing is, these prices that we just covered with the cost of a brand new home, this doesn't even factor in all the incentives and discounts that these home builders give to buyers. So for example, if the median price for a brand new home right now is about $415,000, that's not including the free upgrades for the stainless steel appliances and the granite countertops or the premium cabinets. It also doesn't include the mortgage rate buy downs that they're giving to buyers. So in effect, in reality, we could also say that the actual price that they're selling these homes could be well below $400,000 right now. And that's for a brand new house, which is pretty incredible. How about that bubble? That was cool. So like I was saying, this is all good news if you're a home buyer, because right now is probably one of the best times to be looking at buying a brand new home if you're going to buy a house anyways. I'm not saying it's the best time to buy a house, but I'm saying if you're looking at buying something, it might be good to be looking at these brand new homes, because you're probably going to get a much better value than buying a used home. Then the question just becomes, can you find one of these brand new houses in your price range, in the area that you want to be in, and so on and so forth? Because I think one of the main appeals of buying a used house versus a brand new one is that the used homes tend to be in more favorable locations. Not always, but sometimes. Like for example, if you want to be close to a school, right? And the used house is literally built like 2 blocks away from the school, so your kids can walk to school. That's something, that's an amenity that you probably are not going to be able to find with a brand new house, for example. So those type of things, having your house like walking distance to stores and restaurants and stuff like that, those are also things that new homes definitely don't have most of the time, at least not right away. It takes time for the area to build up and the infrastructure, and more often than not, when you're buying a brand new home, you're likely to be more of a commuter and having to drive to all these different amenities versus buying a home in a used neighborhood where you're close to all this stuff already. But of course it comes with the compromise of, well, you got a nice location, but now you're paying a higher price for a house that likely needs work and has problems. So which one do you pick? But of course people can have big problems with brand new homes as well. I've covered that here a few times on the channel. People buy brand new homes and sometimes it's so bad you can't even live in it, or right off the bat it needs $50,000 or $100,000 worth of repairs. But even though these brand new homes are a better value, we can see just how much the housing market is slowing down right now, and just how much of an impact these prices and interest rates are having on things, because the seasonally adjusted annual rate of sales of new single-family homes fell to 697,000 houses. It's going down right now, but it's actually still up 24% from June of 2022. And that's likely because this is literally the biggest source of inventory out there for anybody looking to buy a home. But if we go back even further and compare the brand new home sales to pre-pandemic, it's actually still down by 9%, guys. So things are kind of like leveling out and normalizing now, and that's exactly what these interest rate hikes were meant to do. And so far, I think they're just beginning to work right now. It's not like the full effect has been felt from all the interest rate hikes, but I think it's starting to finally have its initial impact on the housing market that will continue to have an impact over the next probably 2 or 3 years at least. And you know what this means? That now that sales are slowing down for these new homes and the home builders are really ramping up on building them, means they're likely to start cutting prices even further, okay? And what do you think that's going to do to the used house market? Same thing, guys. It puts downward pressure on prices. And the interesting thing to me is we're seeing the downward pressure on home prices come at a time when we have record low inventory. And I just can't help but wonder what's going to happen when the inventory numbers come back to normal. what kind of effect is that going to have on the housing market? So right now, at this very moment, there are currently 432,000 brand new homes for sale in the brand new home market. Only about 72,000 of those 432,000 are available and move-in ready right now. The other ones are all still in some stage of development. But what that means is you still have a good 325,000 homes, brand new homes, that are going to be coming to market over the next few years. And that's pretty significant. So the point is, there are options out there, guys. You don't have to sit around and wait for sellers in existing neighborhoods to come out of the woodwork and finally list. You can go out there and buy a brand new house right now. But is that what you want to do? Can you afford it? Is it in the location you want? But if you do decide to do it, there are way more incentives to do so than buying a used house, that's for sure. Most home sellers aren't going to give you a mortgage rate buy down. They're not going to be giving you free upgrades in terms of, brand new kitchens and amenities like that and upgraded appliances. That's all stuff you can get from builders. So I would take advantage of that as if I were a home buyer right now. So if you guys are a home buyer out there right now, just make sure you do yourself a favor. Take advantage of all these opportunities that are out there when it comes to new construction. Make sure you don't listen to all these fear mongers that are telling you that if you don't buy today, then you're gonna have no shot at buying in the future, because that is just simply not true, guys. That is a big fat lie. Just like, oh, you can always refinance later. And you gotta watch out for this stuff, because all these lies are designed to get you to jump in and buy today instead of when you feel ready. So that's the problem with all this, and that's the problem I have with it. And as somebody that's been in this industry for a long time, it's very easy for me to spot this stuff and bring it up to you and make sure you don't fall into these pitfalls. I hope you guys enjoyed this awesome walk around the Redondo Beach Pier, because I certainly did. It's a really cool spot to come and check out if you're ever here in Southern California. So if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this. And if you don't want to wait for my next one to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.